Welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay.
Welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay. In this first part of the episode, I am joined by new Chief Operating Officer down at Circuit of the Americas, Rick Abbot. Rick, thanks for joining. How are you doing today?
Everything's great. I'm really happy to be with you today.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. Congrats on the new role there. Everybody, just a little bit of background on Rick. You've been at NBC before, ESPN. Let me see here. I was just looking at it. The PGA Tour, and also you were a draft pick in Major League Baseball. So you've been around the sports and entertainment world for quite a while. What originally brought you to Circuit of the Americas a couple of years ago?
Well, it was interesting. I at my 12 years at ESPN, I had worked closely with Sean Bratches, who was at F1. And Sean called me one day and said, hey, we have this great relationship down at Circuit of Americas with Bobby Epstein. And he goes, would you be interested in talking to them? And returning back to sports had always been something that I wanted to do. While I was at NBC, I was working as the head of operations for 30 Rock, which was absolutely a great job, and I loved it. But it didn't have anything to do with the sports of NBC because that was all up in Connecticut. And so it gave me an opportunity to kind of look at being back into sports and specifically into something I really enjoy, which is racing. So it was a good fit for me.
Yeah, I love it. And so, as Chief Operating Officer, of a racetrack, what are your, typical responsibilities on a non-race weekend versus, during a 3 or 4 day race weekend?
Great question. I mean, what's funny is that with our big three races, with the INDYCAR Classic and MotoGP in April, and then of course Formula One in October, we're really never out of planning mode of doing something for a big race. And so as soon as F1's over, we'll immediately kind of go into planning for our April motos and Indy races and everything. But beyond that, I mean, the track is running, every single day, that we're out here, whether if it's Mercedes or Ferrari or the SCCA car clubs or Chin or with whatever's happening out here, the track's always going. So, the good part is that, I'm lucky enough to have a office that looks right down on the start-finish line, and cars are whizzing by every single day, and that nothing makes me happier. I mean, we have the Audi driving experience out here, which is fantastic, and we just added Skip Barber with, F1 type cars out here. So it's an interesting job. But on top of that, as far as racing is concerned, non-racing also is that, we have our own professional soccer team here, the Austin Bold. We just signed a deal to have a rugby team here. We have a 13,000 seat amphitheater that we have over 30 concerts a year with. So that's, the likes of Maroon 5, Alanis Morissette, Black Crowes, Hall & Oates, Kiss are coming. So we're going to have a great concert season this year. So trust me, I stay busy.
Yeah. You made me tired just saying everything that you have to deal with there.
As I was talking, I was thinking, oh my God, we got a lot of planning to do. But it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah, I know the feeling. So, specifically with INDYCAR and being there for the first time last year, what was your impression of the series and competitors, and what did you think of the overall first race weekend for the INDYCAR down there?
Well, I was lucky enough to go to Indianapolis a couple of times in my ESPN career, and had been exposed to IMS and the whole team down there, prior to. So I always knew that it was a first-class organization. And so when we announced that INDYCAR was coming to Austin, I was thrilled because, it's an American-owned, race series, and Americans love their open-wheel racing. And it's something that I really enjoyed the weekend. They come down and do testing in February, and they'll be down here on the 10th and 11th of February this year. And so got a chance to kind of see them on the inside out, where it's a little less formal. And so get a chance to, meet some of the drivers and the team owners and things like that. And, and they're all in on, helping us, sell tickets, do marketing, be accessible to the crowds. One of the things that I don't think INDYCAR gets enough kind of credit for is how available they make everybody in their organization be to the public. They are so forward facing as it relates to, to allowing people to get as close as possible within safety limits, of course, of the actual race cars and the race teams. And I think it's fantastic that you can get, buy a ticket and come down and be in the paddock, and be looking right into the garages, and it's an exciting time for us, and we love having INDYCAR here.
I hope that sold some extra pit and paddock passes for the INDYCAR weekend, because you're 100% right. It's just so awesome to be down walking around with all the fans and seeing kids take pictures with their favorite drivers within minutes of the race about to start or the national anthem about to start. It's such a cool experience. I remember COTA last year. I had my wife with me for the weekend at that race, and we were standing next to one of the cars, and all of the signs that were being held next to the car were being held by the little USAC drivers for the USAC quarter midgets that were racing that weekend as well, I believe. So it was really cool to see that kind of mix. I think, my first experience at COTA last year was amazing. I will be down for the test again next month, and being there for the test is nice because it gets me out of cold Pennsylvania for a couple days and into.
We will welcome you. That's for sure. Because it's one of the great things about living in Austin. First of all, I gained 10 pounds in my first 2 months being here because of all the barbecue. So, and then going to music and everything we do around that. But I love Austin. The weather here is so temperate. Sure, it gets hot during some of the summer months, but that's a little price to pay for the rest of the season just being absolutely wonderful. I'm looking out my window right now. It's mid 60s and not a cloud in the sky. And so Austin is just a wonderful city.
See, now you're just bragging because it's about 23 degrees here.
I have to admit, there is a little bragging going on.
I get it. That's fair. I would do the same thing if I were you. And having your office right over the start finish line is probably an amazing view. So going forward as chief operating officer, is there anything you want to adapt or maybe add into Circuit Americas, whether it be more entertainment around the track or another race series coming, anything along those lines? I think IMSA is doing a race at your track this year, if I'm not mistaken, without looking it up.
Yeah, so we have the World Endurance Challenge the weekend of the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd here. That's going to be great. So we were just meeting with the ownership groups with them, and so that's going to be a lot of fun. And then other things that I would like to do is we have an unbelievable karting track here, and doing more for the fans than just to be non-participants. We want them to be more participatory in what they do here. So, we're going to have some fun. We have fun already with the karting track. We're building out some other amenities that I can't quite talk about quite yet because we're in the planning stage, but it's going to be exciting. Coming to COTA is going to be much more than just kind of walking around and watching other people drive, but we'll have plenty of opportunity to do the same thing. Our Audi driving school has been fantastic. People, get a chance to drive the track. That the INDYCAR and the F1 drivers drive, and to get out on COTA's track gives you a different appreciation than to watch the race about how difficult it is. Because coming off of turn one, you're going straight up, and then all of a sudden you're into a bunch of banks of turns, and it's exciting. The first time I hopped behind the wheel of a car and got in on it, I was pleasantly surprised at how difficult it is, because I think that as a total amateur driver, I really get the appreciation for the guys that get behind the wheel and do this for a living.
Yeah, very well said. I did not get to experience that at COTA, but being...
Oh, Mike, we're going to get you in a car. So let's talk when you get down here, and yeah. I'm going to get you behind the wheel.
I love it. I am honored to even have that chance, talking to you right now. So I appreciate it, and I'll be sure to be reaching out when I arrive down in early February. So I'll wrap it up with one final question here and let you get about your probably very busy day. You mentioned that you grew up a racing fan. So who were some of your favorite drivers or favorite races and series and whatnot growing up, as a kid and young adult?
First of all, can you not be a fan of Mario Andretti? I mean, the guy did it all as far as, following, the American series. But I have to tell you, though, I grew up and then especially as I started getting into my adult years, I was an Ayrton Senna fan. He brought me into Formula One, his style, the passion behind the Brazilians behind him. Obviously, when he died, it was devastating for the entire sport of car racing, for auto racing, but especially for those of us that found to be big fans of his. It's an interesting thing. When I was at ESPN, I worked on the NASCAR circuit when it came back to us, and I really enjoy any type of car racing, but there's something about open wheel racing that just is different. And I really, really enjoy, the technical aspect of how they do their jobs, and it's fun. So I get to be a little bit of a kid in a candy store here when those races come to town.
Yeah, that's a great story. Obviously, growing up in Pennsylvania, grew up a Mario Andretti fan myself, and it was cool to see him at one of the barbecue places in Austin last year. I forget exactly where we were, but anyway, Rick, thank you very much for a couple minutes today. I look forward to being down at the track in February and then again in April. You guys have an absolutely amazing facility there. And thank you very much for the time today.
Of course, Mike. Anytime you want to come down and get behind a wheel, I'm going to make it happen for you.
Thank you very much.